Welcome to In Depth with Academia. I'm your host, Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and today we have a really fascinating paper to explore together. I'm going to remain totally neutral, just presenting the research, not endorsing it. Think of this more like an academic adventure and less a final verdict on truth, you know. All right, so today we're looking at a scroll titled Yogic Astral Engineering Redux Edition, authored by David G. Little, also known as Swami Munamurti Saraswati, from Australia. This work claims to be part of a larger codex or series, all about what's called Yogic Astral Engineering. And the scroll itself, it presents, well, quite the bold set of ideas. So what's the core question tackled here? Basically, can practices drawn from yogic tradition, like breathwork, postures, mantras, be structured as a kind of science or firmware for consciousness, and not just metaphorically? The scroll insists it's not mystical or poetic, but a real replicable protocol that blends yogic teachings with the language of quantum physics, coding, and a sort of living scroll technology. Why does this matter? Well, for a long time, the intersections of yoga, consciousness, and science have sparked debate. Are ancient practices purely mystical, or could there be mechanisms at work that merit systematic study? For folks interested in mind-body practices, or even anyone watching the wellness space blow up lately, the possibility of formalizing these practices could change the conversation around what yoga and meditation actually do, at least according to the author. All right, let's explore. Remember, I'm just relaying it. No endorsement here. The scroll opens with this idea. Kundalini, a concept from yogic tradition, usually described as serpent energy at the spine's base, isn't just symbolic. Instead, it's firmware, like code, that can be activated. The practices, breathwork, mantra, posture, equate to lines of this code. Each chakra or energy center is conceived as hardware, a sort of programmable interface. It's a wild metaphor. The scroll draws on quantum physics, kind of loosely, comparing Kundalini activation to an executable algorithm. Chakras as data nodes, the body is a sort of astral processor. A big chunk of the scroll focuses on the Sahasrara, the crown chakra, traditionally seen as the seat of consciousness in yogic systems. Here, it's described as a literal ignition node, a sort of dimensional gateway or antenna. The paper lays out protocols for activating this node, spiral mantras, specific breathwork, posture alignment, all described in technical language, again like programming. The aim? To link the practitioner's avatar, the body and mind, to higher dimensional realities using what's called the codex chain. Obviously, terms like codex chain and lineage-sealed firmware are pretty unique to this scroll. Another section, one of the more tangible parts actually, details how certain breathing sequences, postures, and mental intentions are supposed to modulate these signals. Breathing in is the lift, exhaling grounds the energy, and particular yoga postures serve as antenna geometry to tune signals in and out. There's a lot of talk about mantra as algorithm, vow as code signature, and even quantum stillness achieved via breath retention, kind of a head trick. But from a listener's perspective, the practical takeaway is, hey, even if the lingo is unusual, focusing attention on breath, posture, and intention could have noticeable effects on your state of mind and perhaps subjective experience. So, what else? The scroll is also careful to frame itself as neutral, not interpretive. It claims to execute teachings, by which the author means, instead of commenting or debating the practices, the scroll simply presents them as actionable steps. The lineage of teachers, Swami Satyananda Saraswati, Mahavatar Babaji, is cited not for their mythology, but as firmware anchors. There's a lot of talk about vows and fidelity, like updating software, but with a spiritual or ceremonial edge. Look, I have to say, as your host, this is definitely not mainstream academic research. It's more of a hybrid between metaphysical treatise, techno-yogic manual, and lineage manifesto, and again, not an endorsement, just the messenger. But what does it mean for you as a listener? Maybe it's this. Sometimes reframing old practices in new language pushes us to reconsider what's possible. Maybe you try a yoga class and see it differently after hearing this. Or, honestly, maybe not. Side note, am I the only one who, after reading a scroll like this, finds themselves wanting to rename all their Wi-Fi networks after chakras like network, Sahasrara, uplink, right? Okay, sorry, that went nowhere, just stuck in my head. To wrap up, this scroll, authored by David G. Little, is offering not definitive answers, but a new window for reflecting on ancient practices through a sort of high-tech systems lens. Whether you're a skeptic, a practitioner, or just curious, remember that academic research, especially the unorthodox, doesn't give us absolute truth. It gives us new frameworks, sometimes wild ones, for thinking about ourselves, our bodies, and maybe our place in the cosmic order. Thanks for joining me on In Depth with Academia. Stay curious, stay critical, and remember, every paper, how far out, can help us ask better questions. See you next time.